You there and ready?
Yep.
All right, good. Are you on your way to Premiere?
Working on it. My dad's covered.
Awesome. All right, so number one, if your robot is not moving, please unmute yourself and tell us now so we can send you help. It is now build season week 4, which means that we are 4/6 of the way done. So 4 out of 6 weeks are coming up here really quickly to be completed. And if you do not have a moving robot, then we need to get you some help because don't feel embarrassed, don't feel alone. There have been teams who showed up to competition with their kit still closed, like still zip tied shut, and thought that they had to build the robot there, or that they figured, hey, we'll just build it when we get there. So if you do not have a moving chassis, whether it's not programmed, it's not built, it's not wired, whatever the issue is, please let us know so we can help you. So I think as long as everybody's good, we're going to move on to number 2. Awesome. All right,
okay,
number 2.
Well, we're not. Sorry, I was waiting. I thought someone else might step in, but 6086 is definitely not moving.
Okay. Are you guys having mechanical issues, programming issues, electrical issues,
well,
all the issues?
Everything. All of the issues. We went to the day after kickoff thing, and we did fine there, but since then we decided to change something, so we don't even have what we had on the day after kickoff anymore. And and I don't even know where to go from there.
So first off, the question I'd like to say, I mean, so you guys actually had your robot moving the day after, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's Laura Clark talking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Me.
Sorry. That's okay.
That's okay.
So don't recognize voices. So I mean, for you guys, I mean, if you guys want to come out to our meeting on Saturday, we can figure something out for you and get you operational.
This is our big thing with Saturday is that because we weren't told that we were doing FRC until after we had already made our plans for VEX, we actually have to go to Monroe on Saturday for a VEX competition. So we're losing another whole weekend.
I mean, so I mean, where are you guys at?
Can you send 1 or 2 kids to Premiere?
Split them,
at this point, I have a feeling it's going to end up being adults. We have our kids can't get permission to do anything, so
sure.
I can't bring them there.
So if you want to send a couple adults on Saturday, since the students are going to competition in Monroe, you could send a couple adults so that we can guide them with whether what needs to be done to get it operational, or get it operational so then the last few turns of the screw are the students, and then, hey, victory, you got a moving robot. Don't feel that, especially in FRC, don't feel like it has to be 100% students, because it's not. It's a mentoring program, right? So students and mentors can both work on the robot the same amount. There are no rules to that. So if you want to send some kind of adult to our place with the robot, and we can see what's wrong or where you were heading, even to test it going over the field pieces we have there. We can probably go off the line of this so we don't hold everyone else up, but don't be afraid to let's work. No, it's no big deal. We'll work something out to get you guys operational. With the thing. I mean, even if you guys came during the week, that's no big deal to us, but you might have issues with your students trying to get them there. So.
Right. Okay, thanks. We'll talk later.
Yep.
Thanks.
So see, you're not alone. If you need help, ask for it. We will help you solve your problem. If you guys are down Detroit way, we'll find somebody. If you're up north, we'll find somebody. If you're in the Flint area, we're that somebody. So we'll help you. If you guys need help, let us know. All right, so number 2 is finalizing your chassis dimensions. Clint, Jason, you guys want to talk a little bit about chassis dimensions and finalizing that so you can start making your bumpers?
Sure, I can talk about that. excuse me, the chassis, you know, we've said before the frame perimeter has to be 120 inches. Some people have sent us questions asking about that. If you have a cutout in your chassis, the frame perimeter goes across that cutout, so you have an open that doesn't, the string doesn't follow inside of that. The critical thing is to make sure that you have 8 inches of bumper on every single corner of that robot. Once again, it's the exposed corner. So let's just take a rectangular robot. You need to have a minimum of 8 inches on every single corner to protect that robot. Now, that's the minimum. You should probably have as much bumpers on your robot as possible because that is going to protect you, and bumpers will be your friend. They are not your enemies, even though during inspection they may be. When you do your frame perimeter, you also want to make sure you're under. Don't make it at exactly 120. Make it at 119 and a half or 119. And then the other thing to look at is make sure you can fit through a doorway. Typical doorways are 28 inches wide. If your robot is wider than 28 inches on both dimensions, you might have a hard time getting it through the door. However, if your robot is only 16 inches tall, you could flip it upright and get it through the door that way. But you know, you gotta make sure you understand you gotta get it out of the building, right?
Awesome. So we had a question from the that was emailed in. It says, do all the bumpers have to be the same distance from the floor? We see in the rules that you have to be between 4 and 12 inches, but not sure about it being all the same distance from the floor.
So with that bumper rule, you have to be between the 4 and 12. It doesn't mean it has to be equal in that 4 to 12 zone. So in the front, you could have it at 12, the top side of it at 12, and on the back side down to 4. It may be harder to mount and mount it on your robot that way, but there is no rules saying that your bumpers can't change as long as they follow the specifications given in section 4.7 of the size and what they're made out of, and they are within the bumper zone at all times, and that they don't move out of that bumper zone as if you were laying flat on an even floor.
So does that also mean that if you're going to change the distance from the floor of your bumpers, that your chassis also has to follow that? Because it has to be solidly mounted all the way around, right? The wood backing has to be against the rails of your chassis at some point. So it's not like you can build a square chassis that is equidistant all the way around and then build bumpers that arch up or down.
No, I mean you could have a square chassis, and your bumpers, as long as within the bumper zones, could go up and then back down as long as it stays between 4 and 12 inches. You just can't have your bumpers articulate. The best way to describe it is if you're going over an obstacle and let's say you have a 12-inch pogo stick in the center of your robot, and you were to push down on that, it would tilt your robot on a 45-degree angle or something like that. That would move your bumpers out of the bumper zone, and you would no longer be legal at that moment in time. However, if you just have wheels and you're going across the defenses, and as you go across the defenses, it moves outside that bumper zone. But if you were to lift the robot out virtually in that moment in time, set it on a flat ground, and your bumpers are still within the bumper zone, you're okay. It's really hard to describe and express that. I think I might be confusing people more. I don't know.
I think that pretty much answers this question.
Okay.
If not, Mike, Matt, if you're on the call and that didn't answer your question, please feel free to speak up. All right. The next one is
something real quick. I mean, I don't want to be the bumper inspector guy who people send me pictures of their configurations. But I mean, I'll take a look at it. I mean, I don't have a ton of time to do this, but if someone has a really crazy idea and they want to send a picture and say, is this legal, is this not, I'll take a look at it. But please just really, really read rules 4.7 section 4.7 of the robot section, because that explains everything. I mean, that's all I'm basing my opinions are based on those rules. So if you read and understand those rules, you should come to the same conclusions.
Perfect. All right. Programming update. Just a few things about your programming. I'm practicing. So if you guys are now getting to the point where you have a programmed robot that you're practicing with at home, you need to know about how to e-stop your robot while you're practicing at home. Clint, Jason?
So I'm trying to remember if it's the space bar or the enter key. One of them will stop your robot, will disable it, and then the other one will put it into an e-stop. When you hit the one that puts it in an e-stop, I want to say I can't remember off the top of my head. When you do hit an e-stop, you have to cycle power on your robot before you can regain comms. So if you just hit the other one that disables it, it'll disable your robot. The robot will coast to a stop. If if the robot's running toward the wall, you might want to hit the e-stop. It's still going to coast a little bit, but there'll be a little less of the communication delay.
Sorry, I was on mute for 2 seconds.
Yep.
Sorry.
What's the difference between e-stop and disable?
E-stop, you have to restart your robot in order to get communications back and to get the code to run again. If you disable it with the, you can basically disable and enable it repeatedly, and you don't have to cycle power or restart your code on the RoboRio.
Do you remember the quick keyboard key? It's space for disable or enter for disable?
No, enter is disable. Sorry if you're going to hear my car beeping at me. Enter is disable, spacebar is e-stop. So the best way to remember it is spacebar is the largest key on a keyboard. So if something dangerous is going to happen and someone's finger is going to get lost, you slap your hand down on the keyboard and you will most likely hit the spacebar. That's only in like crazy emergencies. If you're just enabling the robot and disabling it to do other things, to test motion or something like that in a controlled environment, you can just hit the enter key. And I think the enable sequence, if you want to do a keystroke, it's the 3 keys above enter. It's like slash pipe something. I don't know what it is. I'll look it up and we can send it in the notes. But it's like the 3 keys right above enter keys. What?
So usually it's just easier to enable it. I just usually enable it with the mouse click.
Yeah.
And then we try to have somebody on the disable key at all times when people are driving, if they can, especially when we're trying to prove stuff out the first time, and especially if you're trying to run autonomous mode. You want to have somebody on the disable key just in case something is programmed incorrectly.
Yep. And the thing I always talk about enabling and disabling, your students and mentors have to have confidence. And don't be afraid to let everyone know you're enabling the robot. So make sure they say it loud and confident. And even though they are going to enable it, it's up to their responsibility to look at the robot and make sure everyone's hands are clean and free of the robot, and no one's fingers are going to get lost when Auton runs and you thought you were in teleop. So make sure they look, and then once hands are clear, then you can actually click the enable button. But it's up to them, and the onus is on them.
Is there any other questions? Okay. Did you want to go on to adding lights and other visual indicators to the robot, Randy?
Sure.
Okay. So you are required to put an RSL light on the robot. It should have came in your kit. That'll just plug into your RoboRio, and that will show you whether the robot's enabled or disabled. I believe it's solid when it's enabled, flashing when it's disabled. I'll have to look that up. But you could also add other lights and LEDs to your robot as additional visual indicators. So for example, a couple years ago, we added a string of LEDs to the robot that was triggered by a digital output from the Robo-Rio when we detected that a ball was in the machine. So when the ball was in the machine, the light went red, and our drivers would know that we had acquired a ball. So you'll see a lot of other teams, or a lot of teams will put LEDs on their robot just for, some are just for decoration, and then some actually have have a purpose.
One of the easiest ways, if you just want to have a light on for decorations, my personal opinion is don't worry about that too much, especially your first year. However, if you want to do that, you can just power that directly into the, depending on what your light is, with the 12-volt LED strip, you can plug that directly into your voltage regulator module. If you want to control the light turning on and off based on a signal that the robot is getting, the pneumatics control module, the PCM, is probably the best way to do that. Even if you're not planning on having pneumatics, what you do is you actually fire the pneumatics as if you were extending a pneumatic, and it'll apply 12 volts to that output, turning your light on. So you don't need to do anything fancy with resistors or anything like that to get the LEDs to turn on. You can plug a 12-volt LED directly into, like LED strip, directly into the pneumatics control module and turn them on and off as you see fit. If you're having a wheel shooter, when your wheel gets up to speed, when it gets up to the proper RPM, if you're on target of the goal or something like that, you have acquired a ball, you know, any of those types of things you could use to give indicators back to the drivers. The best thing is to make it so that the drivers never need to look down at the computer. They're always looking at the robot, because you never know when someone's going to come and hit you and turn you off target and prevent you from shooting into the goal or something like that.
Any questions on that? All right, so the next thing on the agenda is choosing your drive team. Clint, do you have some information on that?
Sure. I'm the drive coach for our team. Of course, I am a mentor. Some teams do have students as the drive coach, which is fine. But one thing that when you go through after, potentially 4 years of being a team and being around, it's nice to have a little bit of consistency on the drive team and know about certain situations. The other reason why we have an adult mentor on the drive team is that any decision made on the field is on my shoulders. It's my decision. It's what I told the students to do, and no one should blame the students for an action that they did on the field. And I can take and live with any actions that we do. Where some students can't handle that pressure, whether the robot broke or something like that. Same thing goes to when you're picking your drivers. The best way I say it is I can't teach someone to be a leader. I can't teach someone to be mature, to be a hard worker. I can't teach those things. Most students just have that. So those are the first things I look for. After that, then I look at their ability to, listen and their ability to react quickly in stressful situations. With the stressful situations, it gets very, very stressful behind the glass when things aren't working like they should, and you need someone in there that can handle that pressure. If someone gets really worked up over any little thing, they're probably not the best person to have there. So those are kind of some of the things I look for. And then you also, in my opinion, you want to make sure that your drivers are consistent in terms of week 1 event, you have the same people that are going to drive match 1, 2, 3, 4, all the matches. Then when you go to your second event, you have the same people playing those matches. Instead of swapping people out, I know some people think, well, let's have everyone have a drive at it. But if you want to make sure that they're building on their, what they learned in previous matches, it's better to have more consistent, the same person in there driving and learning each time. Kind of the same thing. I guess if you had a pitcher on a baseball team, you don't switch out the pitcher every inning. You use the same pitcher because he's learning how to throw the balls at the different batters and stuff like that. So that's what I do.
And kind of on Team 2337, way back in the day when we were rookies, we let our students vote on who our drive team was. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that we made in our rookie year. Vote has now become a 4-letter word on our team because it turns into a popularity contest, not an ability contest. So just like in a lot of sports teams, you put your best people forward, right? Your starting lineup's going to be your best lineup. And there's a lot more than just how well they drive the robot. It does have a lot more to do with what kind of stress they can handle, those kind of things. Different teams have different rules about if you have to be a sophomore, junior, senior, whatever. Some teams get a freshman and train them up for 4 years. Like Clint said, we pick one team and let them go through the whole season unless they're a complete and total train wreck. Like Clinton has had it before where he's had it in his mind that a certain student's going to be the driver on the robot, and then he puts them up there and they fall apart. But then you put them into, say, the secondary, the operator role, and they do a lot better. So some people can handle the stress, some people cannot.
Yeah, and with that, the drive team has an understanding that at any given time, I can make the decision to pull them and put someone else in. I'll say it honestly, having humble students who understand at any given time they might lose their job as driver usually goes a long ways. Some teams don't let their drivers work on their robots. Some just have to pick through. Usually what I tell my drivers is that if they want to be driving the robot, they need to make sure that the robot is operational. It's not that they come in and they get to have all the glory and drive the robot and, hey, guys, fix my robot so I can drive it next match. That's something that bothers me. But it's also one of the hardest decisions you'll make is saying someone's going to be the driver and someone else is not going to be the driver. It's a tough decision. I hate making it, but it's a decision that must be made for the better of the team.
We also recommend that your drivers, whoever you choose, have inside and out knowledge of your robot. So if while they're driving it, it starts to do some weird things, that they can actually have a diagnosis of what it is. So I know that you guys might not have your first competition for several weeks from now, but this is a good opportunity for you as the coaches to let your students, once your robot starts moving, let them drive the robot, and kind of for you to keep an eye out for these things. Look for the students who are concentrating, the ones who have the knowledge, the ones who are working hard, those kind of things. Don't necessarily pick the girl that's crying in the bathroom because she accidentally ran over one thing with the robot. She might not be a good pick for your drive team. But on the other hand, you might have some students who have worked on the robot the whole entire time and they think that they know everything and that they're the best in the world and that everybody else needs to put the controls down because they're the best ever. You also might not want that. So it's going to be you guys making a good decision about this. We've always compared the drive team to like the goalie in hockey, right? If your team loses, the goalie did a terrible job and let way too many goals go through. But if you win, the team did great and everybody worked together awesome. So unfortunately, the drive team is the first one to get yelled at when something goes wrong and the last one to get congratulated when something goes right. So just kind of keep that in mind. So Jason, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I think that's good. Clint's reasons are the same reasons that we have an adult do our drive coaching. Again, takes that pressure off the students and, you know, gives an adult the responsibility for what happens on the field. Yeah, so we do some drive training tryouts. So once the chassis is up and running, you know, we'll have the students that are interested drive it around so you can kind of see their skill set. And like Clint and Brandy were saying, sometimes the person that you think may be the best may not be the best just because of attitude or their commitment to the team or, you know, being cool under pressure. Those are all attributes that you have to look for, too, in a good drive team.
Hey, Hey, Jason, when you guys do your trials or tryouts or whatever you're calling it, is it in front of the whole team or is it private? So that somebody can't be like, well, I scored 7 points and he scored 8. How come I didn't, or how come he got chosen over me? You know what I mean? Like, or, you know, the person who scored one more point gets in second place as opposed to the other person. Is it just Kyle says, this is how it goes and this is going to be it and I'm the drive coach and that's it. If you don't like it, then too bad, so sad.
I'm trying to remember if we don't do them like with the whole team there. We did them with the drive, you know, the people that wanted to be involved in the drive team there, but I can't remember if we separated out them during their trial.
Okay.
I know we've done where people that are interested, one person will drive one robot and one person will drive like a defense robot, and they'll switch to kind of play against each other. So I guess it's not really a point system, I guess. So we don't really, it's more of a watching them in a feel rather than like assigning specific points. Does that make sense?
Awesome. Yep. So these are just things that you guys need to keep in mind. Like, a lot of you guys might already be like, I already know which 3 kids are going to be on the drive team. It's just a matter of assigning them which role they're going to go to, because generally speaking, leaders on teams are obviously separate from everyone else. But if you guys want to talk about this on a personal level, or if you guys have any questions right now, you're more than welcome to ask. You can send us an email to ask questions if you have it. And I'll just say, me being a girl in a pretty much male-dominated mentor area, I've been a drive coach before, and it was very difficult for me. I'm not really a very assertive personality when you first meet me, so I'm not one to be like, hey, listen, here's the plan, this is what we're going to do, where Clinton and Kyle are both really type A personalities. I'm kind of more the less type A personality, type B personality, if you will. And that's a very difficult position to be put in because there's a lot of people in this community that have been doing this for a really long time, and they know what they're doing, and they have the knowledge and skills to back up what they're saying. So when you're choosing your drive coach, I highly recommend that you choose someone who is going to be a very A-type personality. I'm sure Kyle, being a female in this, but with her, she's probably encountered that as well, but her personality would definitely contradict any kind of women don't know what they're doing type attitude from anyone.
And then also the other thing is the drive coach actually has to think on their toes. They have to be able to understand where the match is. You know, for this season, you know, how many defenses have been, you know, taken down, or how far are you away from reaching? How far are you away from capturing the tower? What's the score? Are you winning? Are you up by 20 points so you actually don't need that other 10-point risk of climbing because you know you're going to win and just get the capture for the extra ranking point? It sounds like all complicated things, but the drive coach needs to think on their toes, and it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds goes by really, really quick. And I've talked to other drive coaches who are like, yeah, this isn't for me. I can't do that. This student over here, this college person over here, they're way better at it than me. I'm going to let them take it and run with it.
Does anyone have any questions about this? I know we're talking about this a lot, but this, as Clint said, is probably one of the hardest decisions you will have to make as a coach. So, any questions at all before we move on? Awesome. Jason or Clint, I have not read this week's updates. Is there anything that we need to inform everyone about from the first Q&A/update?
There was one update about I don't know if anybody's looking at vision. There was an update about the height of the vision U-shaped tape. The manual said it was 12 inches or 1 foot 2 inches, and then I guess the real one is 1 foot only, not 1 foot 2. So that was one I remember. I'll be honest with you, I didn't read yesterday's or Tuesday's like I should have. So.
Yeah, that was basically about it. And then there was a clarification on the 6 boulders in the castle, that you have to clear out the excess boulders as soon as possible.
Have they confirmed if someone, this is some question we've wondered about, but no one's asked yet. I haven't seen on the Q&A. If the boulder goes onto the batter, technically, according to one of the drawings, that's in the castle, so does someone have to exit that, even though it wasn't scored in the castle? I don't know. Is that what they're referencing, or no?
No, this one just says only 6 boulders can remain in the castle during teleop. And basically the intent is, as soon as the 7th boulder arrives in the castle, that Alliance has to have a concerted goodwill effort to enter any extra boulders back onto the field as quickly and safely as possible.
Okay.
So basically you can't hoard boulders in your castle.
But you also don't have to kill yourself to get it out of your castle.
Right, yep. They're going to give you a goodwill amount of time to get that boulder out.
Awesome. So we just want to remind you guys, Stop Build Day, or what you guys may have here in Michigan called Bag Day, is February 23rd at 11:59 p.m. This seems like it's kind of far away, but trust me, it'll be here before you know it.
Less than 20 days.
Yeah, right? And this date will be the same no matter what. If there are snow days, if your school is closed, if you can't meet with your students, doesn't matter. Stop Build is February 29th at 11:59 p.m.
23rd.
In your kit, or sorry, 23rd. You guys should have received a big giant bag in your kit of parts. This is what you're going to be using to put your robot in. So closer to bag day, we will go through exactly how to bag your robot, the materials you need to have to bag your robot, what needs to be in, what has to stay out. But you need to mark it on your calendar now in big red letters, 11:59, Tuesday, February 23rd. So keep that going. And then just a couple things to touch on for you guys before before you put your robot away and before you're done. You will receive time to open your robot before competitions. We'll go into that a little bit more. But please know that once you put your stuff in that bag, you can't touch it again until the week before your competition. So if you are working on an arm and you need to measure it, you need to make sure you have all of that stuff done before you put your robot in the bag. Like I said, we'll go into that a little bit later, but just understand that once it's in there until the week before your event. So keep that in mind. Clinton and Jason, you guys want to go into withholding allowances versus upgrade parts? So teams can kind of know, we don't have to go into it in big detail, just so that they understand that they can make upgrade parts and have withholding allowance.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit last week, so I won't go too long into it. You're allowed to have 30 pounds withholding, but that 30 pounds is what you're allowed to bring in that is a custom part. So the best way I describe it is if you have a 30-pound arm that you take off the robot and keep it out of the bag, that's perfectly fine. However, when you come into your event and you have this 30-pound arm, you can't bring in any other custom, already prefab machine upgradable parts, because that arm is all of your 30 pounds of withholding allowance. However, if it is a cost item, a commercially available off-the-shelf item, you can then bring those in as long as they're not modified, and then build stuff once you're there. So if you had any VersaFrame gussets and VersaFrame tubing and other stuff like that, you could bring that in as long as it's not cut and modified, and then once the event starts, then start building and modifying and make your robot, and that doesn't count for your 30 pounds of withholding allowance. When you unbag your robot, if you have this 30-pound arm, you're not allowed to put the 30 pounds back in the bag and then grab another 30 pounds off of the robot and modify and tweak that, so then when you come in the next time, it's a different 30 pounds. That 30 pounds that you had was your 30 pounds. Because they don't want you basically nickeling and diming it. So it's like, well, we're going to open it for 2 hours, we're going to take 30 pounds off, we're going to work on that 30 pounds. Then we'll put it back in the bag, and then 2 hours later, we're going to unbag and take a different 30 pounds and give us more time to work on the robot. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on that.
And what about replacement or upgrade parts? Does that count towards your 30 pounds?
Yeah, the replacements and upgrade is part of that 30 pounds that you bring in on the day of the event. So you can't have more than that.
Say you have like a PVC thing on the front of your robot to pick up a ball, and your last match of the day, it gets ripped to shreds and it's broken. You can't make a new one and just be like, oh, I'm switching out this broken one for this other one. You have to count that toward the 30 pounds.
If it's just a piece of PVC that is off the shelf, it's raw PVC and there's nothing custom about it, you can bring as much PVC in as you want. However, if you got a custom part, meaning it has 5 holes in it, big giant holes in it to make it work properly, and you brought, 50 of them in, and each one weighs 50 pounds, you're over your 30-pound withholding allowance for that weighted amount.
Okay, perfect. Does anyone have any questions about that? We'll go into it a lot more detail later on, but we just want to let you guys know some of the things that are coming up that you can be thinking about.
Honestly, the key to me is try not to have a 30-pound arm that you take off your robot just to keep it out of the bag, just because you're probably better off, if you're not going to do anything with that arm, you don't need to do anything to it, leave it in the bag, and then that way you can come in with upgrades and additional parts and pieces. If you see something at another event that you're like, wow, we could do that real easy, let's work on that and bring it in the event. That's usually a better way to spend that 30 pounds. However, if it's crunch time and you're zip-locking, you're putting your robot in the bag and someone drops it off the table and it bends the arm and you got to remake the whole thing, then yeah, sure, at that point you got to evaluate the return on investment for doing that.
Does anyone have any questions at all about that? Speak up if you do. That kind of brings us to the end of our robot stuff that we planned on covering tonight. Does anyone have any general questions at all about the robot before we move into team management tasks? No? Well, if you do, feel free to give us an email. We will be glad to work with you and get you up and running or answer your questions that you have. If you guys need help with anything at all, just give us a call. I mean, we are definitely here to help. So, okay. So we right now are going to move into uniforms. This is just a reminder, we've talked about uniforms a lot, but if you are attending a week 1 event, just get your uniform orders in or whatever lead time your screen printer needs. So if you have not ordered your team uniforms yet, you definitely want to move toward doing that. Now, a couple important things that I want to talk about is sponsors, especially since if you guys are putting your t-shirt orders in, you're going to want to make sure that you recognize your sponsors on your uniforms. It's up to you which of your sponsors you put on your uniforms. Some people put them all, some people put a few, some people have a guideline. It's totally up to you how you do it. But one thing I want to talk about is putting your sponsors into TIMS. So TIMS is the Team Information Management System through FRC. You guys should have already logged into this to print your roster for kickoff. You'll be needing to go in and print it again for all of your events. But I want to talk about recognizing your sponsors in here. So after you log into your account, you click the little green and yellow flashing button that says like Team Summary. And on the main page, there's going to be a bullet point that says organization. This is going to be where you're going to put your sponsors. There's a button that says Edit View, and you're going to click on this. We'll include screenshots and stuff from going through TIMS in the notes for you so that you guys can walk through this step by step. So the first thing you're going to want to do is at the top, your high school is going to be listed as the #1 thing. Make sure that this is correct. It should already be correct. Hopefully it was right before. If you are not part of a school, if you're part of, say, like a Boy Scout group or a homeschool association or a school group or church group, just make sure that this is correct. If you ended up joining with another school, you can add another school or add another organization. So say you originally, school district A, and then you have 2 high schools at your school, so your so say you'd be like Grand Blanc High School, East Campus and West Campus, or whatever you wanted to call it. So just make sure that whatever you put there is correct, because that's what's going to be read. Then below that, it says Team Sponsor Organizations. This is where you're going to want to put your sponsors. You can add them in any order that you please by clicking the Add Sponsor button down at the bottom, and then afterwards you can rearrange them. So it will tell you kind of on the side, there's a little button that says Sort, and this is where you are going to number them numerically. On our team, we choose to number our sponsors based on how much money or materials or whatever it is that they give us. So General Motors, we're a GM-sponsored team. They're always our #1 sponsor because they pay all of our registration fees every year. Our second sponsor is always our facility that we build out of, because we do not build at our school. And then from beyond there, we go down based on financial contributions. However you guys choose to do it is up to you, but you need to make sure that you go in and put all of this information into TIMS. This will be read at competition. So when you click Finished after you're done, the thing that you see under Organizations, it will bring you back to your home screen, the thing that you see under Organizations is what will be read at competition. So for example, at competition, when the first time you go out on the field, the announcer you'll go on there and they'll be like, and here we have Team 2337, brought to you by General Motors, Premier Tooling Systems, the Chrysler Foundation, Jason Tool and Engineering LLC, CAD USC, Department of Education, Uniplus Manufacturing, the Robot Space Lifestyle, Florence Kettering University, and Grand Blanc Community High School, the Engineers. So that will be read at competition. So whatever you put in there, if you put 47 sponsors in here, they will read all of them. So you have to decide as a team where you want your cutoff to be. So if you're like, all right, anybody that gives us less than $1,000 doesn't go in the team name.
Also on note on that, it's usually the first match you play of the day. So your first match on Friday, they'll read all of your sponsors and your full name. Then after that, they typically will only announce maybe your nickname or your school, what you're known by. And then Saturday they do the same thing again. So they don't read it every single time, but you can use that as a bargaining chip for sponsors and partners to get additional money, because you say, hey, you want your name read, you got to pay a little bit more.
And whenever first, at the district level, it's not included, but at state and at the first championship, your sponsors that you put into TIMS are listed in the brochure that they hand out. So just like when you go to a sporting game where they're handing out the packets, the books, the magazine things, they make those at First Robotics competitions, and your school name, your team name, and whatever sponsors you put in here are listed in that as well. So just make sure that you go in and update that. Additionally, you're going to want to put some of your sponsors on your robot. So when you are designing your robot, after you're all done designing it, you're going to want to look for a place to put your sponsors. Our team gets a sheet of polycarbonate or Lexan, and we have a local decal place. They do decals and screen printing and stuff like that. We send them a vector file of all of our sponsor logos and tell them we want them at this certain size, and then they print them and we stick them on our robot. Some of them you can even take whatever you're printing it on. So if you're printing it on plastic, you're printing it on material. Jason, you guys use like parachute material for yours, don't you, to save weight usually?
We've gone to really thin gauge polycarbonate, and then we do the vinyl on the polycarbonate at least the past couple of years. But yeah, in the past we have done that ripstop nylon, and then we've gotten the sponsor names printed out and then ironed them on.
Sweet. So we've actually gone to a place too that has said if we choose to use like almost like a wind jacket material, like a windbreaker material, that they'll screen print it for us. But we choose to go to a decal company so that they're printing everything exactly the right color, and it all ends up nice looking and they're durable. And we actually take our plastic to them and they put it on for us and everything for like 10 extra bucks. They put it on, which is awesome because I used to be the person who put the logos on the robot years ago, and it's really hard to do. And I grew up my dad restored antique cars, so I put decals on cars growing up, and so they're hard to do. So just know that this is something that you should definitely be looking into, and it's up to you what you put on there again. So maybe you guys only want to put your top 2 sponsors on, or maybe you want to put all of them on. Totally up to you guys what you do. These are just some things that we want to pass along to you. And then same thing, social media. This is a very free and very easy way to recognize your sponsors for what they're giving to you. Say you have a company donate lunch to you. It's really easy to have a team Twitter account, team Facebook account, team Instagram, whatever, and, you know, do hashtag thanks sponsor, and then put, you know, thanks for providing lunch for us, Taco Bell or whatever. Same thing if you're building anything or have anything that you want to do and thank your partners, they will definitely appreciate that. And then note, if you receive the Michigan Department of Education grant, which hopefully any of you that are in public schools did, because it's a lot of money and it's really useful, they have a specific request of how they want to be recognized. You're supposed to use the Michigan Department of Education logo, not the state of Michigan. You're not supposed to write anything else, but the Michigan Department of Education is what you're supposed to put on there. The MDE has a logo. If you did not receive the document that has all of the information on it, we'll stick the email in here of the person you're supposed to contact, and they will give you all of the information and the logo and the recognition and everything that you're supposed to do to make sure that you do it correctly. We've never had a problem with it, but there's a disclaimer in there that if you don't recognize the grant, then they have the right to ask for all the money back. So just be cool and put the logo on. So, does anybody have any questions about recognizing your sponsors? Anybody, everybody? Awesome. Okay. Then just a couple things we want to touch on. Travel plans, we talked about this pretty much in length last week, but if you haven't started making your travel plans, make sure you're getting on that. And then Dean's List Award, which is, we talked about this a lot last week. It's the award where you can nominate students as leaders on your team for this really awesome award. It's due February 11th, which is coming up right quick. So if you're anything like me and you haven't started on your nomination letters yet, you should probably do that. So I'm in the same boat as any of you guys who have not written your letters. It's still attainable. It's only 4,000 characters, which is right at about a page. Our problem is usually not that I don't have enough to say, but that I have way too much to say. So get on that. Anybody have any questions about travel plans or Dean's List? No? Okay, well, if you do, let us know, and we will be glad to answer them. Then Clint and Jason, Next thing on the list is robot cart.
So yes, you'll probably need a robot cart. Something to move your robot between the pit area and the fields, especially at states and at worlds. There's a long distance, and you don't want to just have to push your robot around. So we've done it before with like a little moving dolly. We've put the robot on that and moved it around. We have a bigger cart that we use now that has some big pneumatic tires on it, and then we put the robot on and wheel it around. So again, something to be able to put your robot on and maybe some tools on to get it from the pit area to the competition area.
And if you decide to do something cool, like Rush made their own cart there, make sure that you don't size it exactly only to the robot that you have now. Make sure that it's versatile enough that if you end up having a little bit larger or a little bit smaller of a robot in future years, that you can reuse it. The team that Clint and I were on before we started the Engineers, Team 1243, they have had the same flatbed, carpet-covered furniture dolly since like 2004. So you can use just something like that. It's not a huge thing. A lot of teams put a lot of time and effort into their robot cart. Take a lot of pride in that. You've got some kids who are like totally about building a robot cart. Let them go at it. There's no budget constraints or anything on it or anything that it has to be. It just has to be able to safely transport your robot. But please bear in mind when you're building this thing that your robot will weigh upwards of 150 pounds by the time you put the bumpers on, the battery in, build the robot. How high you make it is how high you have to lift that and how high you have to lift off of it. So just keep that in mind when you guys are building. I don't even know if they have any examples or anything in first of suggestions for a robot cart, but you'll see every kind of robot cart in the world. You'll just need something. So.
And I guess be careful of the size of your cart too, because try to make it, less than that door width, that 28 inches, so you can get the robot and the cart through the door. I know one year, it was our second year in the competition, and we built a cart that was probably as big as our robot crate. And, yeah, it had some big wheels on it, and we tried to drag it around the competition and could barely fit through the aisles. So just be careful. Don't get too huge on your robot cart because you still have to be able to fit it through the door and be able to transport it to the competitions.
So I think that that's all that we have on our agenda for you guys tonight. We're going to go ahead and open it up for open forum questions. If anyone has any questions about anything at all, let us know. We'll do our best to answer it or point you in the right direction of where to find the answer. Anybody have any questions?
I have one question. Do you guys have LabVIEW for Apple computers?
I do not. I think you could request that.
The only way to do LabVIEW on a Mac is to run Parallels or Boot Camp. Okay. You're not able to do it direct native, so you're going to have to use some kind of PC.
Okay.
That's the first time I've ever heard that question in like 9 years. Go Mac people. All right. Any other questions? I hope that you guys are all sitting there quiet because you feel at ease and you're ready to face this upcoming build season, not because you're scared. If you guys are scared, feel free to talk to us. I mean, we were in your shoes not that long ago, and being a rookie is kind of scary. It's a lot of work, and probably a lot of you guys are here because you were roped in by your school's principal and you have no idea what you're doing, and we're here to help. So if you're scared, let us know. We'll help. All right. Jason or Clint, do you have anything to add?
I'm all set.
We have 3 minutes left. I expected this to go like 20 minutes over today with all the robot stuff we had to cover. Okay. Well, if you guys have your robot done and you need time to practice, feel free to give us a call. We're up in Grand Blanc, but we have almost all of the defenses built, the plywood versions, and we're there 9 to 9 on Saturdays and 1 to 9 on Sundays. So if you and your team are willing to make the trek up to Grand Blanc, our doors are open to you. Just give me an email and we'll try to set up a time for you to come. So.
I'm almost done.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, we will be here same time, same place next week as soon as the notes are done within the next couple hours. Jason will be sending them out to you guys with the information for next week's call. So if you guys have any questions between now and then send us an email. Otherwise, happy firsting.
Thanks.